Record. All right, ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. Welcome to the Fitness Oracle. I am your host, John Katsavos. My guest today is Rohan Francis from Questfit. Rohan is a certified personal trainer for the past 27 years. His specialities include nutrition, strength, kettlebells, and stress resiliency coaching, and he is an accomplished public speaker. He's married and has two young daughters. Rohan, welcome to the show.
Hey, John. Good to be on. Thank you for the invite.
Before we get started, I just wanted to wish your daughter a happy belated birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. Yep. She had a great time. Like the house was filled with, princesses yesterday. So I was looking at it. I was like, I wonder what this would look like, if I also had a boy thrown in the mix, like if I had a boy and a girl. But it was just perfect. It was just a bunch of girls and they're all vibing and connecting nicely. So yeah, it was awesome.
That's great. So what got you into the fitness industry in the first place?
Well, I started in the health business back in 1993, and I was on the membership side of things. And, I like people. It was awesome, having them come in and finding out what they wanted to do and showing them the price options and seeing them get started. But one of the things that I noticed was the conversation that happened between me and them in finding out what they wanted to do, me letting them know what the organization would do to help them. That wasn't really being delivered 100% once they got going. And, I felt that, now I was in a situation where my word wasn't being honored, right? I gave someone my word and it wasn't being honored. So I felt, hey, like if I switch to the training side of things, now we're going to get rid of that disconnect. Because what I say to someone that I'm going to give to them, I'll make sure 100% that I deliver it. And thus I got, certified to train and did that for a lot of years. And, what I've been doing for about the past 6 years is more on the managing of trainers side. So your training knowledge is still very relevant. And, you help, especially those younger trainers, really develop their skills. But, you're able to kind of just be there more than just the one-on-one with that client on the floor.
So from 1993 till now, how have you seen the fitness industry transform?
Oh, huge. I mean, I think a very important thing that has happened is that the field has become more, there's more education. And people can have the assurance that when they're working with someone, more than likely that person is going to be a vetted, certified professional that's part of a governing body that ensures that they've got the knowledge and skills to take someone through an effective workout or give someone an effective guidance about health and wellness where it's not going to be detrimental to that individual. Because, we have to remember that fitness is still a very young industry, right? So my perception is that, and, we're in the similar age group. So, my perception is that in the early 90s, you still had a decent amount of people that were individuals that were really into fitness. Maybe they were really great at sports or they loved working out. So them training people really was about passing on the knowledge that they acquired in applying fitness to themselves. But the overall science and understanding muscles and injuries and all of that stuff really wasn't there. So I think the industry growing in that way, where now it's about people being governed by a governing body and having to have that certain degree of knowledge. I think it's important because it just leads to better safety for people first and foremost.
Well, interesting that you say the word safety, especially coming, the last couple of months have been very crazy, to put it in a word. And we've been seeing a lot of the industry, especially personal training industry, moving to a virtual training modality.
Right.
Do you see any benefits to virtual training for customer or trainer?
Absolutely. For the customer, the value of it is it helps with time, because having to get to a gym, the round trip to get there, get to the office or get back home, do your workout, that easily could be anywhere from about an hour and a half to maybe 2 hours and 15 minutes. Whereas if now you can just simply link in with someone virtually, that travel time is saved. And then equally important, it's cost effective, right? Because now that that trainer doesn't have the overhead of a space, or that organization doesn't have the overhead of a space that that client is using, they can charge the client a smaller fee, which means that for the organization, they may have more business because more people can choose to be involved because of that much more reasonable fee. So from the client standpoint, there's a convenience, there's a benefit both in terms of time saved and, equally important, money saved. And then thirdly, it gives them an opportunity to have access to a global pool of trainers. And same thing for the organization. It gives the organization, the benefits to the organization is that you have an opportunity to reach people globally, and also perhaps have a greater number of people that will participate with you because you have the ability to offer them a much more reasonable rate than if they were actually physically coming into a spot.
Mm-hmm. You noticed. I noticed you made mention once to me about something that you called virtual on-demand fitness.
Right.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. So, people, there are many different things that people want to tap into, whether it's, the cycling stuff like you see with Peloton, or yoga, or meditation. So anything to do with health and fitness, it's a growing trend where people can simply just plug in and you can access experts in different areas from around the world, which is awesome. And I think that people like that variety. So yeah, it's great. And I think you'll see that, expand to a certain point. But, I think, the wonderful thing about technology is it has its benefits, but I also like those people that are kind of like the crossing guards, right? That might be stepping out into the middle of the road and saying, hey guys, wait a second, right? You might have the ability to have on demand all these different things, but if you're just jumping from place to place, from thing to thing, and never allow yourself to focus on one particular thing, then your body doesn't have a chance to see the benefits, right? And just period, and your health doesn't really improve. So I think what we will also see is always, I have faith that we'll always have that group of people that are there to help people navigate this realm of technology and virtual, to say, okay, hey, how do I work this in a way that makes sense, that I'll actually have the focus that I need to stay on something long enough that I'll get good at it. And then also, just to really have that human contact. I think, there's a value to that, right? So, even though someone might have a system set up for the week where they're like, hey, if I'm doing 4 workouts a week, maybe 3 of my workouts are going to be virtual, whatever they are, right? Like I might do my yoga virtual, I do my spin class virtual, I do my meditation virtual, but my actual strength training, I'm actually going to go into a facility and interact with someone one-on-one, because that still allows me to get that human touch.
Mm-hmm. Do you think this is going to get amplified with a second wave, though, that's supposedly coming?
Well, that's if we see a second wave, right? There's a lot of debate about that. I think the industry will grow. And I mean, for trainers that are out there it's like cars with carburetors, right? There was a certain point where, you know, if you're still going to make cars with carburetors, you're going to learn real fast that you're not going to sell any cars. So I think, you know, people that are still looking at this this model of like someone who can come and see me in a gym exclusively, or I can go to their home or condo, I think that will still work to a certain extent, maybe for about another year, year and a half. But, you know, generally right now, there's just this tsunami that's happening where it everything is going virtual. So if you're going to be relevant, if you're going to have clients, you're going to have to tap into that space and find a way to make yourself stand out. So the answer is that, is it going to get higher? I think it will continue to grow to a certain point where it'll get to that point, and then it'll level off. And hopefully that will kind of just go in conjunction with what's happening in our society, where people see that, you know, things have opened up and they are able to go and do a bunch of the things that they used to do and nothing's happened to them. So, you know, for them to actually go into a physical space, then then they can do that and be okay.
So then brick and mortar gyms, what do you see them a year, 6 months from now?
Well, the brick and mortar gyms, they're still, you know, they're still going to be around, because like I was saying, I think you'll always have that segment of the population that are not as tech savvy. There are people that like that, you know, human interaction, because you've been in the gym business for a long time. You know, like for some people, they go to the gym and yes, they want to be healthy and fit, but there may be other things attached to that, right? The gym is sort of like their social fix for the week, right? So going to the gym, they get an opportunity to talk to the staff. There's certain members that are there all the time and they hang out and they chat. So it's more of a social thing as well. That's a big component. For some people, it might be their kind of angle to kind of dabble in the dating pool, right? You know, meet someone. So I think you'll always have people that are about that in-person thing. And the reality as well is that when you're doing things virtually, a lot of people simply are not going to be able to have the amount of equipment, the variety of equipment that you need to make some of the major changes that you want in your fitness, right? So I think that there'll always be the brick and mortar gyms will always be relevant because of that, because of the amount of equipment that they have and the variety of equipment that they have. But I think the ones that will survive will be the ones that get into the on-demand world and into the virtual world as part of what they offer as well. Because those individuals now, instead of, you know, having to go online and say, hey, let me find an organization that can give me something on demand, or let me find an individual that can give me something on demand, just in their neighborhood, when they see the signs for these big brick and mortar locations, right? If they Google them or check them out and they see that on demand is offered, then they can say, okay, I recognize that brand. I have trust in that brand, so I can tap into this format that they're also offering.
Well, I agree with you. I don't think that the brick and mortar gyms are going to go anywhere. I think the ones that will go, I think the ones that will shut down are the ones that are refusing to change for the times. That's
Right.
basically it. So how do you see this moving, as because you touched up on this, that a lot of people use the gym as a community.
Right.
So how do you see something like that being moved towards to keep that community? So we can have I think you called it community-driven fitness.
Right. Well, you know, like one of the things is that, again, yeah, and we saw it like while we're going through this pandemic, right? You know, like all these different things that, you know, people would do. You know, one of the ones that I really enjoyed was your favorite albums. That was great. And you know, people have been recently doing this push-up test, and this push-up challenge and all of that. So I think one of the things that comes out of these various virtual formats is that it gives people an opportunity to connect in that space, right? So if it's something that's on demand, maybe it's about yoga or maybe it's about meditation, then you have these communities that stretch the globe that, you know, people can connect. And I find it, and people like that, right? Because I think as people, that is, I believe, part of our DNA. We want to connect with others. So now through technology, with you being able to connect with a wider range of people around different things, I think, you know, that will grow. And also what's interesting is I think it'll be interesting to see how it kind of rolls out based on age demographics, right? So I wonder which group would be more likely to kind of tap into that a little bit more. Is it people that are more like on the younger side of things? Or is it people that are more kind of like, say, 30 to 50, or, you know, people that are 50 and older? But yeah, this community-driven fitness is just something that gives people an opportunity to connect around different aspects of fitness, and often something that involves, you know, some type of challenge, right? So, you know, people can kind of celebrate their, you know, their wins as they pursue this particular thing.
Mm-hmm. You and I both know how taxing being a trainer and managing trainers and managing people could really be in a gym setting. How do you stay motivated on days where you just want to quit?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. Well, you know what, John, I think that, you know, one of the things that I love about what I do now, more so on the management side of things, and helping people, you know, learn how to develop their business and work with clients and stuff like that, is I think that, you know, our age, you know, I just turned 51 in July. You know, the life experience that we get, you know, having gone through decades now, you know, in the industry, you know, teaches us stuff of how we can go about doing things, right? So I think, you know, part of it is, you know, I have a set of things that I use to kind of relax myself. And one of them is, you know, just really scheduling my downtime. So my personal time. So, you know, in my calendar, when I plan my calendar for the week, I've strategically put places in there where it's just time for me to do whatever I want, whether it's like reading a book, listening to some music, you know, watching some Netflix or Crave or whatever. And then also, you know, I really strive to establish some relationships with 2 or 3 people that are just, you know, the relationship is that we can just call each other anytime and talk about anything, you know, and it just kind of brings back to memory, like when we were younger, right? And, you know, we didn't have as much responsibilities. You could just call up your friends and just chat about whatever, say, hey, you want to do this, you want to do that. And I find just having that confidence that I can make that phone call, and it's not going to be someone's like, hey, can I call you back in a couple of days or whatever, you know, even if it's just chat for 5 minutes or so, it gives me that vehicle to maybe talk about whatever is going on for me that's causing a little bit of stress, or, you know, have that person just, you know, give me something, a little nugget that will pump me up, and I represent the same thing to them. But yeah, I think that that's very, very important for people to do, is to have that routine, you know, that you have, that is part of your self-care,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the way you're going to be able to give your best to others as well.
Yeah, I think that's critical. Um, is this? I know you told me before that you had your own business. Is this something that you picked up from owning your own business?
Well, you know what, John, I think it's something more so that I've just picked up from, you know, the way my life has really progressed, right? You know, we're talking about my daughter that just turned 4, you know, so, and I have another daughter that's a little bit over 5. So, you know, as children have been added to the mix, and the demands on my time and my wife's time, you know, just out of necessity to keep on sanity, really, you know, we've had to kind of figure out, you know, things that we can put in place, you know, so that we're going to be okay, and that we can give our best to others as well. And, you know, John, another thing that has really kind of come up for me over the past 6 months to a year as well and I've heard quite a number of people in the personal development field say this. You know, I think, and I imagine lots of people have probably experienced this. There's a point in your career where, because you want to help people and you like people, you make that attempt to help everybody, right? And I think it's just experience of seeing what happens with those people that really aren't really committed to the goals for themselves, and you see the energy and time that you put in and you don't really get the return, right? Whereas on the other hand, the same energy and time that you put into someone else that really wants to accomplish that goal, and you see the return. So you start to realize that, you know, it's never discarding anyone, but realizing that if you're going to give your best to the world and have the world benefit in the best way, you're going to have to figure out a way to streamline and manage who you give your time to and how much of that time you give to certain individuals, right? And for the people that are going to get less of your time, you know, maybe it's, you know, plugging them into someone that doesn't have as big of a workload as you do, right? And you know, because, you know, I don't believe that anyone should ever be discarded and say, hey, someone could never change, right? Somebody can be going down a path that is not the ideal path for them for 10 years. And one day they just wake up and say, hey, you know what, that's it. I've had enough. I'm going to change my life, right? So, you know, if there were all these people that, oh, you're never going to make it, you know, they're going to remember that, right? But they're also going to remember those people that, you know, still treated them well and say, hey, man, you know, you can do it, so on and so forth. And it's like this delicate dance, you know, where these people encourage them, but those people also did not allow themselves to get pulled into a situation where too much of their time and energy was just going to be sucked up by someone at that time that wasn't ready to be in a better place. And I think that's a very important, I feel, for me and my personal growth, that is a very important recognition. And it hasn't been an easy thing to accept, right? To just say like, hey, you know what? There's some people that they may be awesome people. I sincerely want to help them so much, but I'm going to have to limit how much time I give them, or give them to someone else to deal with, because I can see from the actions that this person is taking that we're not vibrating on the same frequency right now.
So how would you motivate somebody like that?
Well, you know, I think, you know, what I would do, John, is it's sort of like, you know, people getting along, right? You know, we can be about all sorts of different things. But I think if people come to the table, you know, with a genuine interest in getting along and love for people, you can find something through conversation that you can connect with, right? So if you put 6 people in a room and they're all different, majorly different, like I think if you converse, if everyone just kind of checks the ego at the door, and whatever they're about, they check it at the door and say, look, you know what we're going to do is we're committed to finding something, anything that all of us can connect around, right? So maybe we all love basketball, right? Or maybe we all, you know, had some type of major traumatic experience when we were younger or whatever. And if you take that and have it be your launching pad, then it gives hope that growth can happen. So similarly, then, if you find someone that is saying to you that they want something, but their actions are showing something different, I think what you do is you find some things that that person is committed to doing that is positive, right? That will move them a little bit along, and just let them do that. And you know, let it be about them, their progression at their pace, instead of what you think, you know, they should do, right? And I think, you know, as people kind of have that success, you know, because maybe, you know, someone, and I think a great example is, let's say someone comes in and, you know, he's a really skinny guy, comes to the gym, right? And there's that old probably mentality where a lot of gym people are going to say, hey man, so, do you want to get big? Right. And that's the whole conversation. And they didn't really take the time to find out from the guy that, like, hey man, like, listen, you know what? I know I'm a slimmer guy for fast metabolism. I'm okay with that. Like, I'm a cyclist. I just want to learn how to, work on my flexibility, get my lower back strong, so I can be a better cyclist. I don't want to gain weight, but because they didn't really take time to find out what that person really wanted, and they're going on this narrative of just big, 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 they really missed the boat, right? So it's all about finding the thing that the person's interested in and let them work on that. Now, from there, because maybe you were the first person to actually take the time and find out what the person wanted, instead of jumping to skinny guy, he must want to get big, right? When that guy gets to a point where he says, hey, you know what? Like, I love cycling, but, maybe I'm not cycling competitively as much, and now I think I want to put on a little bit of size, right? He's going to go to that person that took that time to actually listen to him, right? And actually built a connection with him, rather than just kind of turning him off because it was just the same old thing, telling me what that they think I need, rather than listening to what I want.
Very, very, very powerful message there. Have you ever had a person where you said, you know what, enough is enough, I quit on this guy, there's nothing that I can do with this?
So have I ever had a trainer that's quit on someone, or the client quit on the process?
No, have you ever experienced a situation where you're like, okay, nothing is getting through to this person, there's nothing more that I could do, I quit?
Right. I've never quit on somebody, and you know what, John, I think that I have a friend of mine that's very into this whole concept of energies and sort of like, this is how I kind of look at it, sort of like, as people, right? We're all born, and it's that whole thing about nature, nurture type of thing, right? So personally, I believe that the majority of who we are is about nurture, right? What we learn, the experiences that we have, that sort of stuff, right? So, if you take, like, when we're born, here we are as this template, and then, we get these things pumped into us, and you're at these different energy levels, right? And then you're gonna, if your parents get you into hockey, for example, probably a lot of your friends are gonna be guys, if guys or girls that play hockey, versus, if your parents get you into martial arts, decent amount of your friends and are going to be people that like martial arts and whatever. So I feel that, as a trainer that's committed to his art of helping people, making a difference in people, and a person that genuinely was raised to be a decent, good citizen, I'm thankful that I've never attracted people that bring an energy that is extremely negative, right? In a situation like, I've had situations where, for example, maybe someone in discussion about a membership to a facility, we just can't figure it out to come to something that makes them happy. And then, the thing on my part was just to say, listen, this is what we can do. And, if that works for you, then we can do business. But unfortunately, if it doesn't, then, we're going to have to part ways. Right. So, I've had a few situations where it was like that. And what I've always found is to really find a way to treat that person as well as possible, and just let them know that it's okay that, we can't find something that works. And maybe that this is just not the right environment, for this. Maybe we're just not supposed to do something together at this time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I know we've talked a lot about a lot of different stuff, you and I.
Yeah, I love conversations with you, man.
I know, they're great. But you actually tweaked something in me, and that kind of like really piqued my interest about the one-stop shop wellness facility.
Right.
Can you go into that a little bit more? Because that's really, really interesting.
Right. Well, John, again, when you look at our society, you know, yeah, people are busy, right? And you know, people were very busy pre-pandemic, and now, you know, we've been dealing with a pandemic, and there's all of this uncertainty about, you know, what the future holds. So, you know, everything that we've talked about, it's interesting that uh it's going to be interesting to see how all of these things are affected by people dealing with this pandemic and whatever is coming next, right? But however, in a stable situation, the value of a one-stop shop is really about just convenience, right? Because again, busy people, like if you have a massage therapist that you have a lot of confidence in has done a great job for you, right? And then that facility also offers yoga, right? You're probably going to be more likely to say, hey, I'm going to go to this facility because it's right here. I can come, I can, you know, get my massage and I can go do my yoga, right? And I have confidence that it's going to be the same quality, right? And also I save time because everything is in one place, right? So that's the benefit of that. And then also, I think as a collective, where, you know, these different organizations can just naturally get referrals from the various businesses that are in the place, then you have an opportunity to offer potentially the customer a much better rate, right? Than if you're all out there trying to drum up, you know, customers, you know, individually, right? It's sort of like when somebody arrives and they see all of these services available to them. I think it's a lot easier to navigate through the various ones that they will want.
Mhm. So this is what you were talking, you're talking about linking coaches, business owners, authors, stuff like people like that.
Exactly, right. And you know, you'll see even like you know, my perception, some of the gurus of personal development, right? You know, the Tony Robbins and all of that, and um, some of the other guys, you know, Grant Cardone's, right? They'll put on these conferences where, you know, they bring in all these other names of people that people know, Les Brown, that sort of stuff, right? So instead of everyone trying to do their own thing, hey, you know what? Let's just do a mega thing, and you know, we'll bring you know, people in that may be very familiar with us individually, right? But now because they're coming to see me, Grant Cardone, now they're going to be exposed to Les Brown, so on and so forth, right? Uh, and maybe they wouldn't have been exposed to Les Brown faster, and Les Brown wouldn't have been able to reach them if he didn't join forces. So yeah, so it's a benefit, you know, for the coaches because they have access to a larger number of people that are probably going to be more open to using their services, and it's a benefit to the customer because if the business that they're using is connected with all these other businesses and they have trust in the business that they use all the time, I think they're going to go into the relationship with the other parties with more of an open mind and an ease that like, okay, this should be an okay relationship to get into.
That's that. This is where that community falls into place, right? That the
Yeah,
whole
absolutely.
community. Yeah, I really
Absolutely.
love it. I really love that idea.
Absolutely. And
Um,
again, you know, it's all about, you know, it's all about helping the individual, right? And getting people to a place where, you know, they're gonna, you know, one, you know, make the time to be to take care of their health. And I find that as I've gotten older, that's kind of the way, you know, I'll word it, you know, is to take care of your health because, you know, what is health, right? I think health is about uh the investment of time and energy to do something that is going to make you better in some way, right? And that better could just be just managing your stress, calming you down. So, you know, you might have somebody that needs to lose 30 pounds, but where they are in their life right now, you know, what they, the path that is very relevant to them is to find something that, you know, once a day or twice a day is going to just bring them to a place of zen and calm, right? So they can make it through their day or wrap up their day effectively. And by doing that successfully over a period of time and experiencing the benefits, it now puts them in a place where they can address, okay, well, hey, you know what? I'm only really eating twice a day and what I'm eating is not that great. So, you know, this is something now that I need to look at. And I think, John, you'll probably agree with me that I think that's something that experience brings as we get older, and we see it, right? Because how many people really, after they hit 30, when you kind of throw away all of the whatever we see on TV and all of that, like how many people really consistently are physically active, eating consistently well, taking care of their flexibility, all of that, right? I think it's a lot less people than the ones that kind of go through this seesaw of, they're on it for 6 months and then they're off of it for 8 months and they're on it for 2 months, right? So I think part of the opportunity that is available for fitness experts like us, in our 40s and 50s, is that through life experience and seeing this over and over again, and then you start saying, well, wait a second, this pinnacle of like, hey, we're gonna go in and we're gonna grind and we're gonna CrossFit and we're gonna Peloton and we're gonna whatever. That in a lot of ways is something that you see more so in people that are like 35 and younger, and that's awesome. That's an important stage of life. But you have this massive group of people that are older than that, right? Dealing with commuting to work, putting in the 9-hour day, dealing with kids, aging parents, that sort of stuff. And these people, they're at a point where it's very important that they take care of their health and fitness, and they want to. But I think in a lot of ways, there hasn't been enough, and it's changing information for these people to say, hey, this is how you go about it, for someone that's in your age category and dealing with the things that you're dealing with, right? Because obviously, having 2 or 3 kids, aging parents that may be in a nursing home or whatever, someone that you're in your career and dealing with that commute and stuff like that. It's much different than when we were 24 and, just trying to figure out, well, what direction do we really want to go in, right? Would you agree with that?
At 24, I was more worried about what club am I going to go party at.
Exactly, right? Exactly. And that's great. That's an important part of life, right? It's a very important part of life, right?
Yeah.
You look back now and say, hey, man, at least we had that stage, right?
Exactly. What was the most impactful moment in your life?
What's been the most impactful moment in my life? I feel having my kids, and the most impactful moment has actually been, like say the last year really, and the reason being is that at 4 and a little bit over 5, they've kind of left that stage of the diapers and the stroller and all of that, and their comprehension is growing. Right. I came across something the other day that said there's a theory out there that who we are as people in terms of how we view ourselves, right, in spite of whatever we achieve scholastically, financially, whatever in life, right, how we really view ourselves, that is established between the age of 5 to 12 years old, right? And I do believe that there's truth to that. And I think if you average it out, I would say about age 10, right? And I see from, having kids, how, just who they are, right? Their desire to play, and, they're going to be messy and they're going to do this and that. And then you need to, make sure they're learning and all of that. And just, so there's a massive demand on parents' time, right? So how you deal with that, I think, plays such an important role in the development of people, right? And we all went through that, right? So for example, I think many of us, I'm Jamaican background, and many of us growing up, we had a healthy fear of our parents, right? Because it was simply like, don't do that, and if you do it, here's what's gonna happen, right? Like, you're getting the strap, man. And you look back that now and you kind of think, oh man, so some of those straps that I got, beatings that I got, man, that was kind of rough, right? And by no means do I advocate that now. And I really think that, society has grown to a point where we realize that you can come to the same result of making a point and getting an adherence to something through consequences and stuff like that. But I'll find myself sometimes with my daughters trying to figure out what is a consequence that's going to work, right? And I'm just like, man, that old way was just a lot easier. Like, it's like, hey, don't do that, otherwise you're getting a beating and it's final, right? However, when I look at these little souls, right, I just see how important it is to just really find a way. You're never going to coddle kids and, they got to fall on their faces, but just really to create an environment of love and care and, being available for them. I don't believe that anyone is going to be a perfect parent, but, I think as people go through that, hopefully there's something that gets ignited in people where they say, hey, you know what, like, I'm going to do the best I can, to be a way, to my children that if society was going to grade me, and saying, was this decent? Was this something that that created an environment that was healthy for the growth of a human being? Then the answer would be yes. And I just find that, like, when you're busy, and when you've got the demands and pressures coming from, clients and so on and so forth, and your partner's in a robot copy of you, so you guys might have some things you're not seeing eye to eye. Sometimes these little creatures, it's hard to recognize that, okay, well, you know what, I'm not going to raise my voice, or it's important for me to make the time, a certain amount of time for them, or to even say that I'm sorry, for those times when you maybe raised your voice or something like that, right? So yeah, so that's been the most monumental thing for me, because as a father, I want to be the best I can, for my kids, so that they can, go out there and be decent human beings in society.
Cool. Very cool. Um, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Yourself and
Well,
your business?
yeah, well, I'm really excited, John, about, this stage, this next stage of my life. I think I've been in the fitness business since I was like 23. So what is that, like about 27 years or something like that. So, I see myself, writing at least a book or two, having, a global reach where, information is being, put out there for people that will help them in many different ways, nutrition, overall, strength training, cardio, whatever aspects of fitness, and just really being a part of a collective of people, right? Like, that's why, when you gave me an invite to be on this, I was honored and glad to do it, because, you're awesome at what you want, what you do. And, I'm absolutely committed to helping you expand your platform and, tapping into you into my network so you can help them in whatever way. Because again, at the end of it, I think, the world is always, it's sort of like yin and yang, right? So, you're always going to have positive and negative. And for me, I believe there'll always be more positive. So I think there've always been people that are pushing for the betterment of people in some way, right? We don't want to see, people working all these long hours, right? We don't want to see kids, being put in the workforce at too young of an age. Women should have the right to vote. Racial injustice, barriers need to come down in this area. And I really believe that, all of the things that you saw in those areas, it's because those people that were on the positive side of things said, well, look, you know what? This is something that's needed for the betterment of humanity, right? Yes, people need to work to make money to provide for their families, but if they're working in an environment where there's toxins in the air and people are dying, right, because the workplace is not making sure that the environment is safe, this is wrong, right? So, I'm really excited about, being a part of a collective where we can reach people, in a greater way, right? And really inspire people, to become the best version of themselves. And what I was talking about with all these changes, by someone standing up and fighting, for better safety in workplaces, for there to be age limits on people that were in the workforce and all of that stuff, it allowed people to have better lives. And if people are having better lives, you know what, they're going to be better for their children. They're going to be better people, contributing taxes to society that pays for everything. So yeah, super excited about making this bigger, reaching a greater audience, seeing people improve their health and wellness, and just when we say wellness, life overall, right? Whether it's their interaction with their kids, their marriages, their friendships, whatever it is.
That's amazing. You actually touched up on a couple of points that I wanted you to talk about with my next question. Like, that's the whole reason why I did this podcast. It's because I know there's so many people out there suffering from depression,
Mm-hmm.
that are feeling that they're not part of a community. They're alone. And now with this entire lockdown going on, that number has multiplied by at least 10. So
Mm-hmm.
what would be the one thing that you could tell them in order to keep their hopes up that there's still a light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah. Awesome question, John. And you know what? One thing that I have a friend of mine, unfortunately, that passed away a bunch of years ago. And one thing I'll always remember about this guy was that he was so open about where he was at, like if he didn't have any, much money to do what he wanted to do, he'd be like, hey, you know what? I just don't have any money right now. Right. And, he was a guy that was at a place where some people might look at it, for him to say that, right, wouldn't really match up with his image and all of that. But he didn't care about that. He was, if, you were his buddy and you were in his circle, right, he was just going to be honest with you. So what I would say is, one, and I remind myself of this always, that, if someone is going to judge me for being open and honest about where I am, that's probably someone that I don't need in my life anyways. Right. So step one, I would say, you know what, just know that it's okay to reach out and let someone know how you're feeling, right? That, hey, can we chat, for 10 or 15 minutes or however long, you need to chat. So just reaching out for that person that might be dealing with some mental illness or depression or whatever, just reach out to someone, right? And then secondly, each of us, and I heard it was an athlete, I can't remember who it was that mentioned this. It's just like, just reaching out to your friends. So, maybe just like sort of like a general rule of thumb that someone can use is like, hey, every week, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to 2 people that I haven't spoken to for a while. Right. And just, a quick text, hey, how you doing? Hope everything is okay. If you want to have a quick chat, I'm available for you. Give me a shout. Right. And, we never know what that text can mean, because, just someone saying like, hey, I'm available. And I actually have a friend of mine that, I've been that to him, this going through all of this, right? Like, he was dealing with some major workplace stresses and, lost his mom and dad in a very short period of time, a bunch of years ago. And he's all alone. And, he actually verbalized that to me on, I think about 3-4 days ago. He goes, Ro, you're one of those guys. I'm so thankful, man, for you, because it's things like this, like us just getting together, grabbing a coffee, or just grabbing a bite to eat, or sitting on a patio having a beer. That's helped me so much to make it through this. So I think, one, just letting people know that reaching out to people, and maybe have a little system to it, just 1 or 2 friends a week, quick text, quick phone call. And for people that may be going through some challenges, even us, just reach out to somebody and say, hey, man, wondering if we can just chat for a little bit, right? I'm just feeling a little bit down. I'm feeling a little bit stressed, whatever. And the people that really love you, they'll make the time for you.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. And I have to admit, I have a confession to make. I actually dropped the ball with this guy. It's
Right.
just, I've been last 11 weeks, it's just one giant snowstorm. I mean,
Right.
so
There you go.
that's,
So you could follow that tip. You could follow that little tip of
yeah, I'm gonna send
what
him
what.
a I'm gonna send him a text message the second we're done, just to touch base with him because I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what, John, that's just it, man. You know, because again, you know, you're old enough, man, that and you're a good guy, right? And you realize that, like, look, you know, I really believe that most people are good people, and if you can kind of just find the way to connect with people on a real level, on something that matters to them, you know, like all the fluff and all of that stuff is gonna go away. And I mean, you know, you're always gonna have some people that are just sour and whatever. But you know, even with those people, I think if you kind of just, you know, avoid the confrontation, or just find a way to kind of just get out of it. I think over time, when they find that, you know, people aren't allowing themselves to get dragged into this negativity that they're bringing, you know, hopefully those people will look at themselves and say, hey, you know what, maybe I need to go at this a little bit different. Just because I'm having a bad day, it doesn't mean that I should, you know, yell at the the person at the checkout counter at the grocery store, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I usually end these conversations off with a couple more questions
Sure.
that I ask everybody. So if you could pick up the phone right now and call yourself when you were 20 years old, what would
Mm.
you tell yourself?
I would say, Rohan, you know, have fun, but don't spend as much money when you go out. You know, save some of that money, and you know what? Travel the world, man. And that's something, John, that I know resonates with you, right? Just you know, go to Carnival in Rio, you know, go to Mardi Gras in Louisiana, you know, go backpacking, you know, through places like Vietnam and all of that. And you know, just see the world and meet different people, because I think I know that is an amazing growth avenue. And then the second thing I would do, John, is I would say, listen, become a fanatic at reading, right? You got to read things on personal development, because pretty much everything that so much of what man has done in life is recorded. And, you know, you have an opportunity to learn, and that's going to make you better. So that's what I would say.
Cool. And the other one I ask everybody is, what keeps you up at night?
Ah, um, what keeps me up at night? You know what? Like what keeps me up at night is wondering about how, when am I going to find, you know, I'm fascinated by, you know, which nugget, right, I'll find to just allow me to interact with people in a more effective way, right? Because I find that, you know, there's a saying that, you know, expect nothing from any, expect nothing from people, but appreciate every good thing that you get, right? And, you know, I think those of us, you know, people like us that are, you know, thought leaders and people that develop people, you know, I imagine that enough of us, it can get frustrating when, you know that what you have to impart in this person is going to help them so much, right? But what it is that they just don't see it, right? And it's just figuring out, like, you know, which nugget can I get that maybe if I had that, I'd be able to kind of, you know, get the message across to the person in a different way, and maybe see them flourish from what I offer. So yeah, you know, I find that fascinating. And you know, as much as I know that there are gems out there, and you know, as we all get better, we have the opportunity to influence a larger audience. At the same time, you know, I realize that, you know, there'll always be people that don't want what you have, and that's okay. You know, you can't be concerned about those people. You just got to focus on the people that are taking what you have to offer, and you can celebrate with them, you know, the differences that are being made in their lives and in the lives of their loved ones and in the lives of people in the world, right? Because as we all become better, we obviously have an opportunity to make our immediate environment better, but we also have an opportunity to be better in terms of how we are and how we give to the world.
Mm-hmm. So where can people find more about you?
Okay, so you can find me at Revman Quest. That's on YouTube. You see some stuff on there. And you can also, if you need to email me, you can email me at questfit14@gmail.com. So yeah, so for any trainers that are looking at scaling their business, that's something that we can help them with. Yeah.
Cool. And for everybody out there listening, I am going to be posting all the links in the notes to this podcast. Whether you're listening to it Spotify or iTunes, you have access to Rohan and his network as well. Any final thoughts?
Any final thoughts? that one is an open one instead of a specific question. Yeah, so just any trainer that's like looking to scale their business, anyone that's looking at taking what their knowledge base and maybe trying to figure out how they can make another stream or two of different incomes out of it. Myself and my team can help them with that. And I just want to say to the audience that just know that wherever you're at, you're always okay. If you need help, just reach out to people that people, there are always going to be people that love you and are going to be there for you. And know that as long as you reach out and you keep striving to move forward, that you're always going to be okay.
Great message. And I have to put in my 2 cents here, because I've known Rohan since October, November, something like that. And he's probably one of the most stand-up guys I have ever met in my entire life. It's very hard for me to say that for most people, but I know him on a personal level, and he actually stands out amongst the entire crowd. He's always been there for me when I needed him. And Rohan, I appreciate you for being who you are.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I feel the same for you, man. And we're gonna take things to a higher level, and we're gonna reach out bigger and bigger audiences, man, and just make a positive impact for people in this world, man. People like us that really care and want to make a difference for people. It's important, and people need that. And people that are not only going to be able to give them the message, but be there for them. As they reach back and say, "Hey, I need you for this or that." So I appreciate you as well. Feel the same about you.
Thank you. So to everyone out there listening, I wish you a good morning, a good afternoon, or a good night, wherever you may be in this crazy world.